Hi everybody, this is the Baseball Hut, the amazing, spectacular, terrific, the great one, the people's champion, your host, the Hut, and welcome back to the Baseball Hut 2. And hopefully you like this video. This is a video of the Major League Baseball trade candidates for 2025. And right now we got the All-Star Game and the Home Run Derby, but what's interesting is we got a bunch of names, and we already have one big name get traded, and that was Rafael Devers get traded from the Red Sox to the San Francisco Giants. Now, the Red Sox have done really well since that trade. The Giants, not so great. But there are going to be a few players. Quite a few players are going to get moved. Don't know if anyone's earth-shattering like Devers was. But we're going to go into it, and I'm going to run down. And this is my list. I researched all the players that have been rumored. And so far, I got about a little under 50 names right now. And we got another, little over 2 weeks now until the trade deadline. And we're going to run down on this channel only, and of course, a big live stream on the big channel, Baseball Hut. And we're going to go through this. So, there's a lot of players here, so please buckle up. I'm going to mention the names, and of course, I write this all down. All the players' names are always in blue, the teams are in red. Of course, when they get moved and traded, then it's permanent and it's in black. As you know, July 31st at 6 p.m. is the trade deadline. It's a Thursday. I'll be live on the Baseball Hut as I take you through the deadline. First name up, Sandy Alcantara. Now, he's not pitched well. He's coming back from Tommy John surgery. He is one of these guys that you could buy low. I don't know if the Marlins will trade him at his value being so low, but the teams attached to him, there's a bunch of teams. The Mets, I'd scratch up Baltimore. Baltimore, coming into the season, we're very interested in him. Baltimore's going to be a big seller. Boston, I've heard. The Yankees, San Diego, the Dodgers, the Rangers, and the Cubs. Cubs are going to be very heavily into this, and so will the Dodgers, obviously, and the Padres. Luis Robert Jr., who has been a name that's been mentioned for many years. There are at least 8 teams on him. According to John Heyman, I have about 7 teams here that I do know of and that's been rumored online. Houston, the Phillies, the Reds, the Padres, the Guardians. We'll see about them. Maybe not so much because they haven't played so well. The Giants and the New York Mets. If I'm the Mets, stay away from him. He hasn't hit. But there is a big upside with him. Maybe you get him in a better situation with a better team, better support system. He's still kind of youngish, but he is a bit of a veteran on that club, and they waited a long time to not move him. Might be too late to get the maximum value out of him. Ryan Helsley, another team that's sort of on the bubble is the Cardinals, but I've heard with him, the Diamondbacks, or another team that are on the bubble, the Phillies, the Dodgers, the Mets, the Cubs, and the Yankees. I've also heard Eric Feed. I had on here the Braves, but considering the Braves are pretty much kaput this season. The Yankees, the Mets, I'll put the Cubs there. I'll put the Dodgers there. I know the New York Mets were very interested in him in the offseason before he signed with the White Sox. And, of course, the White Sox, everybody's up for sale there. Brandon Lowe, I've heard Seattle and Pittsburgh. Dylan Cease's name's still out there. I believe is he injured? I don't even know. His name was mentioned a lot before the season. Got the Mets and the Cubs. Jaron Duran, which would be an interesting name considering how well the Red Sox have played with 10 in a row. But the Padres and the Mets prominently. Brian Reynolds will put San Diego there. He has a no trade clause to the New York Mets. I wouldn't touch him. He's 31 years old. He's on the backside of it. Charlie Morton, the Cubs. I would put the Dodgers there. But the Dodgers there, the Yankees there, the Mets, San Diego. He's going to get moved. I said the Cubs. Boston. He will get moved. The Royals, Seth Lugo. I've heard Toronto, the Cubs, and the Mets. Let's see. Very good pitcher. Was a good pitcher with the Mets. He's been a very good pitcher since he left. Jake Bird, the Mets. And there'll be teams added as we get close to the deadline. Seth Haverson, Joe Adele, I've heard with the Mets. Cedric Mullins, I would not touch him, folks. I would not touch Cedric Mullins. That is just my opinion. He just doesn't hit enough, and he's on the. He should be having a much better year. He should be having a much better year than what he's had there in Baltimore, considering it's his walk year. But I've heard Houston, San Diego, the Mets, the Phillies, and the Guardians with him. Let's see who's next. Kyle Finnegan. Everybody will be in on him. Every contender. Freddie Peralta, believe it or not, I can't believe he might be available. But the Brewers will move players if they can to get talent back. But I've heard the Mets prominently there, obviously with the David Stearns connection. The Yankees and the Padres. Tommy Pham's out there. I think a lot of contenders would be interested in him. Ryan O'Hearn, Seattle, Kansas City, San Francisco, and Houston. Very interesting group of teams. Luis Severino for the Mets. I don't think that's going to happen. Maybe going back to the Yankees. Maybe the Dodgers, the Cubs. We'll also put San Diego there. As you know, the A's will trade anybody to anywhere. I have Aroldis Chapman here. All the contenders will be interested in him, but because the Red Sox have played so well, they can't move him. I've heard Trent Grisham. I've heard the Mets are very interested in him. Interesting. To be honest, that's what I heard in the live stream. Somebody I know that works for the Mets organization. So keep an eye on him. Ryan McMahon. I've heard the Mets and the Yankees. I wouldn't touch him if I were the Mets. It doesn't hit enough. Josh Naylor could get moved. We've heard Seattle, Cincinnati, San Diego. Adolis Garcia. A bunch of teams will be in on him. That's for sure. Eugenio Suarez, the Yankees, the Mets, going back to the Reds, Boston, the Angels, a bunch of teams will be in on him. Mitch Keller, heard rumors about him with the Mets, the Cubs, Minnesota, San Diego. Now, these are all names, all these teams are names I've seen on the internet. So I'm not making stuff up. I'll tell you if I put a team in here, just an obvious thing. David Bednar, all the big teams will be in on him. I've heard the Tigers with him. Emmanuel Clase, all the big teams will be in on him. All the contenders. He's got plenty of years on his contract, but the Guardians don't move him. I've heard Andrew Haney, Jeffrey Springs, Dennis Santana. Be very careful with Santana. Obviously had that fight with a fan. Speaking of fights, Marcell Ozuna. That is a guy that would be interested. The Yankees would certainly be interested in him. I've heard the Yankees with him. Yankees better be careful with him. Mike Soroka, Herman Marquez, Aaron Savelli could get moved again. Obviously, maybe he will cause so much disruption because he complained about being in Milwaukee and then got traded to one of the worst places in baseball and with the White Sox. Nathaniel Lowe could get moved. Zach Littell, Zach Gallen for Texas, the Mets, Minnesota, Angels, and the Dodgers. O'Neal Cruz, who's been kind of a disappointment there in Pittsburgh. He never really developed the way they think they thought he would develop. I think he started playing and then he got hurt, and his career has not been the same. Kenley Jansen, all the contenders will be in on him. Sean Murphy, we've heard a little bit. Brent Suter, I've heard. Merrill Kelly, vet, 37 years old. He's an older, younger player in terms of service time. I've heard the Mets, Seattle, and Toronto. Nolan Arenado could be moved if the Cardinals decide to sell. I don't think they're going to move him. If they were going to move him, they would have moved him in the offseason. In terms of the money, they'd have to juggle the money a little bit. But the Mets could use a third baseman. The Yankees could use a third baseman. And a deal like that, you wouldn't have to give up much for him. I'd have to go look at his numbers and see if he's worth, to trade for. Does he make you much better than what the Mets or Yankees have in particular? Edward Cabrera, many teams are in on him. Heard the Mets are in on him. He did come out of a game early with some kind of injury to his arm, and that's concerning. Tomoyuki Sugano, who doesn't throw hard, but he's a professional pitcher from Japan, pitches for the Orioles. I've heard Minnesota, the Cubs, Texas, and San Diego. There's about 46 names here in this list right now. And there'll be plenty of teams that are going to want all these different players, and there are going to be more names popping up over the next 2 weeks before the deadline. Obviously, I'm recording this on the 14th, so we post on the 15th. So we got about 16 days, which is about 2.5 weeks, a little over 2 weeks. And we'll get into this. This is not a deep group of players. This is not as good as some past years in terms of players being moved. But like I said when I started this video, Rafael Devers was the one that was moved long before everybody else, and he's the big name. You know, there's no Juan Soto's that's going to get dealt here. There's no Max Scherzer's getting dealt at the deadline. There's no Eugenio Suarez getting moved to go back a little bit further. But you let me know what you think about this video, and of course, please subscribe to Baseball Head 2, and I'll see you later.